We all know Rome, Greece, and Egypt, but history hides empires that were just as powerful, yet almost erased from memory. This is the story of the lost maps of history. Number 1. The Khazar Empire. Hidden between the Caspian and Black Seas, once thrived a forgotten superpower, the Khazar Empire. At their peak, the Khazars controlled vital Silk Road trade routes and shocked the medieval world by adopting Judaism as their state religion. The Khazars emerged in the 7th century from Turkic nomadic tribes, carving out a powerful state on the Eurasian steppe. Their strategic location made them masters of trade, taxing merchants traveling between Europe, the Middle East, and China. Wealth flowed in from silk, spices, and slaves. At their peak in the 8th to 9th centuries, the Khazars were so influential that even Byzantium and the Arab Caliphate courted their alliance. But what made them unique was religion. In a world dominated by Christianity and Islam, the Khazar elite converted to Judaism, making their kingdom one of history's few Jewish empires. But no empire lasts forever. From the 10th century, the rising power of the Kievan Rus and internal decline weakened Khazaria. Their capital, Atil, was sacked, and the once mighty empire faded from the map. Though gone, the Khazars left a legacy of trade, diplomacy, and religious tolerance. Their story remains one of history's most fascinating mysteries, the kingdom that chose its own path on the crossroads of civilizations. Number 2. The Axumite Empire. Long before modern Ethiopia, there rose a forgotten superpower, the Axumite Empire. It traded with Rome, Arabia, and India, and became Africa's first Christian empire. The Kingdom of Axum emerged around the 1st century CE in today's Ethiopia and Eritrea. Perfectly placed along the Red Sea, Axum thrived as a trade hub, exporting ivory, gold, and frankincense to the Roman Empire, Arabia, and India. By the 4th century, Axum reached its height. Its kings issued their own coins and commanded powerful armies. But the greatest turning point came under King Ezana, who converted to Christianity, making Axum the first Christian empire in Africa, centuries before most of Europe. Yet Axum's glory did not last. Climate change weakened agriculture, and as Islamic empires rose, Axum's trade routes were cut off. Isolated and starved of wealth, the empire slowly crumbled. Though it fell, Axum's legacy lives on in Ethiopia's Christian traditions and towering stone monuments. It remains a reminder of Africa's forgotten empire that once stood among Rome, Persia, and India. Number 3. The Kush Kingdom. South of Egypt, a mighty African kingdom once rose, the Kingdom of Kush. Known as the land of the Black Pharaohs, Kush ruled Egypt itself and built monuments to rival the pyramids. Centered in Nubia, in today's Sudan, Kush grew powerful after the fall of Egypt's new kingdom. Its rulers mastered trade in gold, ivory, and exotic goods, linking Africa to the Mediterranean world. In the 8th century BCE, Kushite kings conquered Egypt, forming the 25th dynasty. These Black Pharaohs restored ancient temples, revived pyramid building, and ruled from the Nile Delta to the deserts of Sudan. Even after losing Egypt, Kush thrived at its new capital, Meroe. Famous for its hundreds of pyramids, Meroe became an iron-smelting powerhouse, producing weapons and tools that fueled Kushite strength. But shifting trade routes and environmental decline weakened Kush. Finally, in the 4th century CE, the rising Axumite Empire invaded, ending a kingdom that had lasted for over 1,000 years. The Kingdom of Kush left behind grand pyramids, iron technology, and the legacy of African pharaohs who once ruled the Nile. A forgotten chapter of history where Nubia stood as Egypt's equal. Number 4. The Sogdian traders. They weren't an empire with armies, but merchants with caravans. The Sogdians, the forgotten middlemen of history, connected Persia, China, and Central Asia along the Silk Road. Based in Sogdiana, around modern Uzbekistan and Tajikistan, the Sogdians were expert traders. From silk and spices to glassware and horses, they carried the goods of empires across mountains and deserts. But they traded more than goods. The Sogdians spread languages, religions, and ideas. They brought Buddhism into China, Zoroastrian fire temples into Central Asia, and Persian culture deep into the East. Yet history rarely remembers them. Overshadowed by the great empires they served, the Sogdians had no empire of their own. Still, without them, the Silk Road would never have thrived. The Sogdian traders may be forgotten today, but they were the vital bridge of civilizations, the merchants who stitched together the ancient world. Number 5. The Hittites. Long before Greece or Rome, a forgotten superpower ruled Anatolia, the Hittite Empire. Rivals of Egypt and pioneers of diplomacy, they shaped the Bronze Age world. Emerging around 1600 BCE, the Hittites built a powerful kingdom in today's Turkey. Masters of chariot warfare and early ironworking, they expanded across the Near East, clashing with Babylon, Mitanni, and Egypt. Their most famous clash came in 1274 BCE at the Battle of Kadesh against Pharaoh Ramses II. It was one of the largest chariot battles in history. Neither side could claim victory. Instead of endless war, the Hittites and Egyptians made history's first known peace treaty. Copies survive today in both hieroglyphs and cuneiform, a reminder of early diplomacy. But around 1200 BCE, the Bronze Age world collapsed. Trade routes broke, famine struck, and waves of invaders, like the Sea Peoples, brought the Hittite Empire crashing down. Their capital, Hattusa, was abandoned. Though forgotten for centuries, the Hittites pioneered law, diplomacy, and warfare. Their legacy still echoes as one of the Bronze Age's greatest powers. Number 6. The Mitanni. Emerging around 1500 BCE in northern Mesopotamia and Syria, the Mitanni built their power on horses. They developed advanced training manuals, spreading cavalry and chariot tactics across the Near East. Emerging around 1500 BCE in northern Mesopotamia and Syria, the Mitanni built their power on horses. They developed advanced training manuals, spreading cavalry and chariot tactics across the Near East. At their peak, the Mitanni stood toe-to-toe with Egypt and the Hittites. Sometimes allies, sometimes enemies, they fought for control of Syria until shifting alliances slowly weakened them. By the 14th century BCE, the Hittites invaded from the west, while the rising Assyrians struck from the east. The Mitanni kingdom was conquered, absorbed into the Assyrian Empire, and its name faded from history. Though gone, the Mitanni left a lasting mark. Their innovations in horse training and chariot warfare spread across empires, changing the course of ancient battle forever. Number 7. The Srivijaya Empire. For centuries, a forgotten maritime empire ruled the seas of Southeast Asia, the Srivijaya Empire. It controlled the spice trade and spread Buddhism across Asia. Born in the 7th century on the island of Sumatra, Srivijaya rose by controlling the vital Strait of Malacca, the gateway between the Indian Ocean and the South China Sea. Every ship trading spices, silk, and gold passed through their ports. At its height, Srivijaya was a maritime superpower. Its wealth came not from conquering land, but from mastering trade. Kings of Srivijaya, also became great patrons of Buddhism, building temples and sponsoring scholars who carried Buddhist teachings from Indonesia to China and beyond. But no empire lasts forever. In the 11th century, Indian Chola fleets invaded, burning Srivijaya cities. Trade dominance shifted to new rising powers, and Srivijaya's influence crumbled. Though it declined, Srivijaya shaped the culture of Southeast Asia, spreading Buddhism, maritime trade, and ideas across the Indian Ocean world. It was the empire of the seas, forgotten but never gone. Number 8. The Scythians. They came from the steppes like ghosts, nomads who terrified mighty empires. The Scythians, masters of the bow and horse, once dominated Eurasia. Emerging around the 8th century BCE, the Scythians roamed the steppes north of the Black Sea. Fierce warriors, they lived on horseback, herding animals and raiding neighbors. Their rich gold treasures show a culture both warlike and artistic. Even the Persian kings feared them. When Darius the Great invaded Scythian lands, his vast army was harassed by hit-and-run archers until he was forced to retreat. The Scythians could not be conquered because they never stood still. But nomads rise and fall. By the 3rd century BCE, the Scythians were overshadowed by rival steppe peoples like the Sarmatians. Slowly, their identity faded, absorbed into new waves of tribes. The Scythians left no empire, but their legend endured. The horse archers who defied empires and whose way of war shaped nomads for centuries to come. Open History is all about discovering the past that school never taught us. If you want to keep exploring hidden civilizations with us, hit subscribe and turn on the bell, because the next empire we cover might be one you've never even heard of.